John Jones is not the GOAT.
Not to me.
What is good, everybody? Welcome back to the CV Central, episode 10. Hey, we're here.
Hey, live and live in color. We said number one place to be. Now y'all get to see where it's happening.
Hey, scuff setup, but like Drake said, everyone starts from the bottom.
Hey, and we'll be there someday.
We'll get there someday, but for now, just enjoy some authentic sports analysis, sports takes, something that you're not going to see anywhere else on the planet.
Super organic. That's the way it's been since day one, man.
All right, hey. So first off, obviously we're here in the Central Valley of Stockton, California.
209 locals.
But Sacramento State men's basketball team, Shaquille O'Neal, son of Shaq, commits to Sac State, gets to be a player with Mike Bibby. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, NBA ties, you know. And maybe we get to see Shaq out here, you know. It's a new era going to that school, and if they want to build around an O'Neal, why not? As long as he's more disciplined than his father was, obviously, you know, people give a lot of flack to Shaq for, you know, not being as committed as he should have been.
Yeah, no, I think genuinely Shaq could have gone down as the undisputed GOAT had he had the work ethic like a Kobe or a Jordan had.
Especially when you talk big men, he was definitely way more dominating than anybody else. You could bring up the Skyhook. You could bring up multiple times.
You could bring up Wilt, but there's one thing I will say why I believe Shaq is better than Wilt, and that reason is 3 in the key. Yeah. Wilt didn't have a 3 in the key rule.
Yeah.
Now imagine if Shaq was able to back down opponents at any point in time for however long he wanted to.
Shaq was just a dominant player, man.
Hey, he was. So we're recording this on a Thursday right now. Episode will come out Friday on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. So, hey, links are in the description. They'll be right there, man.
Make sure to stay tuned.
All right, so I know you haven't really kept up with March Madness as much as I have.
I'm sorry, y'all. I told y'all that I would, and
but
it's just, there's so much to keep up on.
There is, but
that's what we got you for, man.
Hey, but for the first time since 2008, all 4 number 1 seeds in the 4 region make the Final Four.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, but that just goes to show that March Madness is not what you could think it is. This is probably the first year in a while where the predictable was unpredictable.
Right.
But
no Cinderella stories.
Yeah.
It's what it should be.
Yeah, maybe the only Cinderella story you really had was number 10 Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there's really not one that really popped out like a couple years ago. Number 15 St. Peter's, how they made the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Fortunately, fell to North Carolina. But so Saturday, the day after this is coming up, Duke versus Houston. Duke, high-powered offense. Houston, very good at defense. My bracket is still alive right now. I have Duke winning it all. So, where do you... Who do you got in that match?
Look, man, you've been preaching Duke to me for like the last 3 weeks. That's who I'm rolling out with.
All right, hey, Duke, go Blue Devils, man.
Go Blue Devils.
All right, second game. Auburn versus Florida. Auburn, you know how I feel about Auburn. I feel like they should have never been the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
But they're proving me wrong. But Florida is another one of those number 1 seeds that you can't discount. So, who do you got in that game?
Look, at this point, I'll roll with Florida.
All right.
I just feel like, you know, them Florida boys, they're just a lot more swaggy, you know?
Yeah.
A lot more athleticism.
Yeah, man. I mean, my Final Four, I have Florida and Duke in the Final Four in my bracket. So, and my bracket is alive and breathing right now. Every other round probably doesn't look that good, but hey, I'm almost there.
I gotta get into this.
Hey,
I got to. I got to.
You,
Don't be like
you
me
have
and
to.
don't be like me and miss out on March Madness.
March Madness is great. But speaking of basketball, let's jump into the NBA now. So as of right now, the OKC Thunder are 64-12.
Yeah.
They are 6 games away from 70 wins with 6 games remaining.
Mm-hmm.
Shea, probably going to be the NBA's MVP.
I mean, it's between him and Joker. It's been that.
I think it's Joker, but voter fatigue is a thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But do you think that the Thunder get the 70 wins?
I think it's possible. It's definitely probable. You got those 6 games remaining, and they're pretty favorable. And then OKC has just been really dominant.
Yeah.
And if anything, they'll probably be a game shy of like the actual 70. But I mean, I'm not counting them out, man. I'm such a big fan of Shea. He's kept me alive in fantasy basketball as well. I think he's definitely revitalized not only his own career, but the Thunder and his own image. Before, you would still think about that team with Westbrook and Durant, and now it's SGA. And I don't think there's a guard out there right now besides Steph Curry that gives him any pushback on being the number 1 point guard.
No, I think the Thunder since the beginning of the year have been the clear cut best team in the league. You could have made a case for the Cavs, but then the Cavs went through that skid where they were losing some games.
And you could even bring up Houston too. They just recently clinched, and they got that nice young core. They got that solid roster. Amin Thompson has turned into a superstar this year, spite of Dylan Brooks' efforts on that team. But I mean, aside from the dirty play, you see Draymond, it works for him.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing for them. You got that one guy that antagonizes everybody on the court. So between those 3 teams, the West is interesting.
Yeah, West is interesting. I don't know if you saw, but this morning, I'm going to jump ship a little bit. Carmelo Anthony inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
Well deserved.
Probably one of the best all-around scorers when I was growing up. Obviously, you had KD.
Got KD, you got Braun.
Yeah, but there was nothing like the Knicks' Melo.
Yeah, and Melo being the only guy that really ever gave Kobe Bryant problems.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant said himself, the one guy I could never figure out was Melo.
Yeah, and I mean, despite towards the end of his career, became a journeyman, was with the Hawks for 24 hours, if that.
And then going to the Trailblazers, them telling him he'll be the missing piece, and he ends up turning into the 6th man. They wanted a bench role for him, which he had never been before.
No. And then obviously going to the Lakers after, as a Laker fan, we know how I feel about that.
And then that little experience in OKC too.
With PG and Westbrook.
Yeah, he was definitely overshadowed by Paul George. Paul George had an exceptional year that year.
Yeah, Paul George was great that year. Second thing, I know we just talked about this off camera, but John Morant just can't seem to get out of trouble. There was the incident. There's the incident against Golden State last night, and even today, before we started filming this podcast, he did it again against the Heat towards the end of the game. So maybe against the Heat, the NBA might go investigate, possibly suspend him.
Yeah.
I think it's something petty to do. But given Jaw's history off the court right now, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's not like he's going back to flashing a gun online, but he's making the signs, right? Look, something that's being discontinued, which is kind of along the same lines of the subject, right? You know how when they do first down celebrations, and CD does the...
Yeah.
We all know what that means.
Which I believe was banned by the NFL.
Yeah, which was banned this offseason. We all know what this means.
Yeah.
All right. But nobody ever came for him CD does. And he's not the only one that does that celebration. But people won't do it no more. Ja I think outside of him just trying to maybe make his case that he's a real shooter, and
no pun intended.
no pun intended, but come on. And the way he kind of does it is very similar to D'Angelo Russell's Ice in the Veins.
Mm-hmm.
We talked off camera and we talked on the phone earlier. I think he just needs that mentor, man. And who that is, I have no idea.
No clue.
I don't know if it's somebody at his position. Could it have been a Chris Paul? If maybe Derrick Rose goes to the Grizzlies earlier, or just another prominent star that can just overshadow him. Because ever since his rookie year, Ja was primed for the Grizzlies to be his team. Yeah. They gave him the keys to the kingdom, similar to Luka. You know, all these young guys that get to a roster, they get drafted, and hey, we're gonna build around you.
Yeah.
But this is your roster. They never gave him that vet. The only vet that they had was Steven Adams, and they got rid of him.
Yeah,
you look at the core now.
I think
pretty young.
I think one important thing is there's been trade rumors about Ja Morant possibly getting traded in the summer. So
there's a lot of guys.
Like you said, whether they go and get the mentor for Ja because he needs it in the locker room apparently, or maybe just getting out of Memphis. We know Memphis historically not the greatest of towns.
Yeah.
Possibly getting out of Memphis, going somewhere else, maybe a smaller market area where there's going to be less problems outside of the NBA.
I think too, he has competition at his position, but it's nothing that makes it too unsettling for him. You got Scottie Pippen Jr. We were talking earlier, when he's in the lineup, it's almost as if Ja isn't missed. I think he's going to get into some package. He's going to end up on a team that nobody expects. Don't be surprised if we see Ja in Sacramento. You know, DeRozan's got 2 years left on his deal.
Even after they just got Zach LaVine.
Yeah. You still building up Keon Ellis. Do you get rid of Keon Ellis on recency value?
You possibly ship Keon Ellis to Memphis
with DeMar DeRozan.
With DeRozan,
because
I think I would be more for. Yeah, I would trade DeRozan before I trade LaVine.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not a knock on DeRozan, but in terms of how you want them to fit together, I think LaVine has the better chance of being the off-ball guard than DeRozan has being the off-ball.
I don't think LaVine gets enough credit for how much of a locker room leader he can be. Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever got that limelight in Minnesota. But with the Kings and his time with the Bulls, he was kind of being propped up into that light. Mm-hmm. And now with the Kings, he has that opportunity. There's no one really on that Kings roster. Keegan Murray hasn't came about yet. You got Sabonis, right? But don't be surprised if Sabonis is gone too. You could see a trade for John Sabonis. I don't know if Jaren Jackson is going to stay with Memphis any longer.
No, we could be seeing Jaren Jackson on the move this summer. It's going to be interesting to see what the Grizzlies do.
You could just see that Memphis team blow up.
Yeah, especially since they've started, after obviously winning today. Mm-hmm. Prior to today's win, they were 0-3 post Taylor Jenkins fire.
Yeah.
So they finally got a win under their feet, obviously with the Ja Morant buzzer beater, as we saw before the podcast started.
Yeah. Unless they bring some new faces in there, I think they'll probably end up building around Desmond Bane.
I like Desmond Bane as a second option. I don't think Desmond Bane can win you games as the guy, but as far as being able to put you deep into the playoffs, I don't see Bane being able to do that.
Yeah, but I also feel like he doesn't get enough love either because he's overshadowed of his counterpart.
He doesn't.
It's the same thing with Norman Powell with the Clippers. He's had a great year, got snubbed, and I mean
Norman Powell, even as a Laker fan, Powell was an all-star snub.
Yeah, and you got Leonard and Harden on the roster.
Yeah,
come on.
You have that Clippers team is loaded.
Yeah, and Norman Powell is outshining both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, look, maybe he just needs new scenery and he needs to go to a team with that strong star veteran. Um, Everybody will always bring up LeBron as a locker room leader and as that star veteran. There's not a lot of guys that mirror him. I don't see KD in that light. I don't know if it's someone at his position, but he needs somebody to take him under his wing, which he hasn't gotten to do.
No, I mean they had Derrick Rose at one point, but we saw how that ended.
I mean, that was just for Derrick Rose, honestly, to probably be on a roster for the rest of the year. Let's be honest.
Yeah. All right, getting into our second segment, I'm going to give you fact or destroy.
Okay.
All right, so this is going to be a weekly thing. Depending on the sport, it's going to vary week by week. This week, we got the UFC. For all my UFC fans out there, tune in for this because it's going to be interesting. I got a bunch of hot takes on here that he's going to say it's a fact or he's going to destroy the opinion.
Hey, just like we said, man, it's a new season. It's a new era of the CVC podcast. And like you guys get to see us in live and living color, we got new topics.
Hey, let's go. All right. Nate Diaz will retire the best to never win it all.
There's a lot of greats.
There are.
There is a lot of greats.
I know Tony Ferguson is...
Tony Ferguson. And which sucks because they don't count the interim title.
No, they don't.
Because I would put Justin Gaethje over Tony Ferguson. Although Tony Ferguson is great. Yeah, destroy. No. Look, local legend, love Diaz. And when he's out, he shows his fans love. But, yeah, no. He's not the best ever to not win it all.
All right. John Jones is not the GOAT.
Not to me.
Oh,
not to me. Not to me, because if you're going to acknowledge him as the greatest pound for pound heavyweight champion, he has no lineage to that title.
And not to mention, I believe since his heavyweight title reign, or since 2018, I believe he has made less fights than... Who am I blanking on? I just saw the stat this morning.
To back you up, though, while you gather your thoughts, Jones, look, great light heavyweight. In his prime, drugs aside, great rivalry with Daniel Cormier, but to make your case, you have to fight the best. And the man that has the lineage to that heavyweight title is not under contract, is not a part of the association.
Yeah, and and like we say, the way you earn the title is by beating the man with the title. He didn't beat Ngannou.
Yeah.
Ngannou technically still has the lineage to the heavyweight championship right now.
And, you know, for those wrestling fans out there, you always get some wrestling love out of me on this podcast. Ric Flair, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Space Mountain. He said, and I quote, "To be the man, you got to beat the man." He hasn't beaten the man. And he might not ever. So Dana White can add an asterisk to John Jones and his title reign. He's only had 2 heavyweight title fights. And that's against a watered-down Stipe Miocic and a Cyril Gane, who maybe the moment was just too big for him. Because even when Gane fought Ngannou, you didn't expect to see what you were going to get out of the interim heavyweight champion to fight the heavyweight champion at the time.
Yeah.
And that, him being the last guy to beat Ngannou, to fight Ngannou before Ngannou leaves, I think that's what gave him the right to fight for the heavyweight title as it was vacated, because you were the last guy that fought for it.
Yeah, even though you lost.
Like, you were the last number 1 contender. Guess what? You essentially defend the division by being our best heavyweight against the pound per pound.
At the time, yeah.
But no, he's not my GOAT. I go GSP, Anderson Silva. A lot of guys don't give this man enough love, but he ended his career undefeated. Habib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, I think a lot of flack that Khabib gets is essentially his boring style.
Yeah.
As weird as it is to put it that way, a lot of people don't like Khabib just because of how he wrestled.
It's the Dagestan style, but look, that style makes champions. And you've seen a lot of people taking onto that style. It's not a wrestler sport anymore, and it's definitely not a boxer sport. Um, you got the
I would
anomalies.
say I don't think it was ever a boxer sport.
Definitely not. But you had guys, that could come in and box.
You had boxers.
Yeah, you got Cain Velasquez. You got um, uh, Jorge Masvidal. Diaz is a good boxer, although he has better ground game. But you got guys that can strike. But the Tyron Woodley, Kamaru Usman model, that doesn't work anymore. Because the Dagestan wrestlers are just better.
Yeah, and we seen with Usman, who lost his last fight, I believe.
Yeah, it was against Hamzat, who also wrestles the Dagestan style.
Yeah, we just see that style of wrestling taking over now.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a kickboxer like these anomalies of Adesanya and Poatan, it's maybe the best style to counteract it because their instance is not to go to the ground, just strike, get in there fast, power punches, power kicks, and not go to the ground. That's just not in kickboxing. So I think while a wrestler will initially try to go for the clinch, go for a double single leg, the kickboxers, they meet you with the contact first.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Is McGregor done?
He should be. He should be. He should have. Look, if he wanted a payday, which he doesn't need, because I don't drink proper 12 whiskey. I don't drink whiskey at all. Maybe we will one day on the pod.
Maybe.
On the pod, and we don't mind indulging. We don't mind indulging. But look, McGregor should be done. His last fight could have been that Michael Chandler fight. He could have had another fight against Diaz. I believe that would have been the trilogy because they have a rubber match between the two of them.
Yeah, that would have been the trilogy. Mm-hmm. Diaz won the first one. McGregor won the second.
And Diaz didn't want another fight unless it was the Conor fight.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole notion that McGregor should still be a top 5 lightweight, that's out of the picture. Because any of the guys in the top 5 right now blitz through McGregor. And that includes Islam, Gaethje, Poirier, Bronx, Charles Oliveira, and Michael Chandler. They all go through him. I don't even give him a shot against Paddy Pimblett. All because the inactive. You could put on some weight, and this goes back to John Jones. You could put on some weight and fight a guy that's not so seasoned and become a heavyweight champion, or fight an old-time vet that was going to retire had he not fought that fight anyways against Stipe. But they can't do that to McGregor because there's all the 5 guys. There's no washed rookie in there. There's no washed vet in there. They're all seasoned guys that could easily all be champion if Islam wasn't the champion.
Yeah.
The title would literally hot potato if they would fight a little more often. But, yeah, McGregor's just do the Jake Paul fight. Do a Logan Paul boxing fight. Get your money that way. He's diving into politics. He wants to support Ireland and their politics and be the president of Ireland. Go do all that. Go do your endeavors. Thank you for what you did to the sport, for yourself and Ronda Rousey elevating not only the UFC, women's and international fighters to the level of the magnitude of where the UFC is now, that us fans, like before, it would be, go for the USA guy. Now it's, hey, we want to watch Poatan win the fight. We want to watch Ian Gary win a fight. All these guys that represent different countries, different nationalities. And that's thanks to a guy like McGregor.
Yeah. You talked about, you just said Ronda Rousey's name, which is a great star. You think of Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm. But now that brings me up to my next one. The UFC hasn't developed enough women stars.
Outside of Amanda Nunes leaving, and the lack of a proper build between Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes, I know they have Kayla Harrington that they're high on, who is a former PFL fighter, and I believe she has some stints in Bellator. I don't see anybody out there that is a huge star. I mean, you got Weili Zhang, you got Rose Namajunas, but they always just fight each other.
Hey, don't forget your boo, Tracy Cortez.
I love me some Tracy Cortez. Tracy, if you ever see this, oh my God, I love you. I will come to Arizona today. But look, even Tracy though, like that fight against Rose, you could see there's levels.
Mm-hmm.
There's levels, and that's no disrespect to Tracy because she got incredible top game. She's got incredible top game, and she's a decent striker, but she's not on the level of a fighter like Rose, and she's not on the level of a girl like Weili.
Yeah.
She is a bigger girl. I don't know if she just maybe needs to go up a weight class and take advantage of those girls that are there. They seem to be not as fast, not as quick. They're more wrestlers. I feel like a fight between her and Raquel Pennington would be interesting, but she would need to go up in the rankings. But yeah. And then you got Molly McCann too, who just put her gloves away. She was another star, ties with Patty Pumglet. There's no real star right now other than the vets, and even then, the vets are getting blitzed by the younger girls that nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got Jessica Andrade, she's always in that mix, but she always ends up losing too, or she wins the fights that you don't think you count her out already.
Yeah, man. All right, next one. Volkanovski is better than Max Holloway ever was.
I'm gonna say destroy, although very active champion. Holloway is beloved for a reason. The whole calling to the center of the cage, and legit duking it out. Like he got lucky catching Gaethje when he did for the BMF title, and should have been. I believe he fights in the featherweight class, but also features into the lightweight class. And he's been an interim champion. He's never actually been a full-time champion, I believe. I might be mistaken on that. But I love me some Holloway. I love Blessed Hawaiian. Look, Volk, to me... in the era that he's in, he would be more beloved if there wasn't other people just as active as him that weren't more bigger stars that called for that main event, main card fight. Not saying that Volk doesn't deserve main events, but he doesn't compare to the star, to me, of Alex Pereira.
No.
I would watch Alex Pereira over watching Volk, which is why he's gotten seeded at main events more. You put up a fan favorite and then you just put up a very consistent, favorable champion in a division. I'm going Holloway, man.
All right, last one of this Fact or Destroy segment. Judging is a big problem in the UFC right now.
Absolutely. It used to be the reffing. I know Herb Dean, Steve Mazzagatti. There's more refs that have had issues where, they call for early stoppages and stuff. They call for a guy tapping and he was just trying to adjust his gloves or something. I know there's been guys robbed 4 fights through that. But the judging, I think it has to do with the level of scoring. And how much they don't take into account. I brought up Poatan enough, but that Ankalaev fight, to me, you defend takedowns, that should be as equal as a takedown. The scoring of a takedown and not getting it, but you control him by holding him at the waist up into the cage, you're in a clinch. But you're not striking, you're not landing anything. All you're doing is holding your body onto another man and making him unable to move. I don't feel like that's dominating. It's not wrestling, and I don't mean professional wrestling. It's not Greco-Roman wrestling. It's not the NCAA where you're sitting there trying to pin a man down and not do anything other than pin him. So to me, that is the most recent example that judges need to realize what it is they're scoring and what they're scoring for.
Yeah, I brought this up after the Pereira Ankalaev fight. They need to, like you said, they need to just score takedown defenses as much as a takedown. Like, it's just simple as that. I think they do give credit towards takedown defenses, but not towards the weight percentage that a takedown does.
Yeah. No, definitely not. It's not equal, for sure.
No, not at all.
He didn't get a single takedown on him. And he could barely trip him, but yet he got majority votes through most of the rounds.
Yeah, I believe one of the judges was 49-46.
Yeah, and Dana White, I watched his post conference after that, and he claimed that he had Ankalaev winning the fight. I think you just do that to honor the judges and not discredit your now champion that you have to book around. But to not be honest about the guy that has been carrying your sport for the last 2 years off the back of winning a rivalry against Adesanya.
Five fights in 500 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. One of the most active champions, and he's getting up there in age. We got to appreciate what we have right now.
Hey, that's 3 fights more than John Jones.
Not the pound for pound great.
Nah.
No.
John Jones is great, but like you said, he just lacks right now.
Fight the fight that we want you to fight and make it soon and win it, and you kind of get in the conversation. Francis Ngannou is almost to the tail end of his contract with the PFL, who he hasn't even fought for. Other than the Tyson Fury fight that he had, he's yet to make a debut fight for the PFL. He's still active with his MMA training. There is a potential that Ngannou comes back to reclaim the heavyweight crown in the UFC.
Yeah, and then like you said, lineage title, he's never lost it technically.
I would love to see the matchup where Aspinall defeats John Jones, takes claim as the true heavyweight champion, and you get Francis in the cage with him.
Yeah.
I mean, it writes itself. You get now the man who is a true heavyweight, reclaims the division, earns his spot as the best heavyweight, and then the true king returns home.
Yep.
All right. Hello, my CVC people. It's time to get into some wrestling. Where to start? Okay, I got about 3 bullet points for y'all, and I'll digress on how much is in here, but like I've told y'all on our audio recordings that are available to you on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
And now YouTube.
All right. Big wrestling fan. I could go many different ways for you guys. There's not a lot going on in the wrestling world right now, even though we are in WrestleMania season.
Which is next Saturday. Crazy. Which you actually reconfirmed one of my points that I have here. I was speaking to actually our cousin who is associated to a podcast as well. Shout out to Wrestling Venom. Our cousin Kevin. I feel that WrestleMania 41 has had a very lackluster build. All the key matches are pretty much set. Yeah.
The world titles, both male and females, have been pretty much set. You got the triple threat now confirmed between Punk, Rollins, and Reigns. The most featured match that doesn't involve a title right now is Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. Stylistically, I think it will be nice to see a guy who arguably is one of the best wrestlers to ever do it in AJ Styles. I put him into that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart tier. He's just all around great, can wrestle with anybody. And I think he's going to make Logan Paul look like a superstar. Logan Paul also debuted a new finisher.
The pulverizer.
The pulverizer.
It don't look bad.
It doesn't look bad. It looked clean.
You're flipping someone.
Yeah.
You're flipping someone into a DDT, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like an inverted suplex into a DDT.
Yeah.
And AJ Styles made it look good. For the first time it's ever been done by Logan Paul, AJ Styles made it look great.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think Logan Paul gets too much flack. Like say what you want, like WWE fans, if you're listening, say what you want about Logan Paul outside of WWE, whether if he's a bad person, whatever the case may be that you feel about him, but you can't deny his in-ring ability.
You can't. And he's gotten marquee matches, but it just goes to show that you put him in there with the two best guys that you have available in Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, and he can hang with them. You've already made a star. And the people that don't like him are the guys that are not traditional WWE fans. Now, the modern kind of bouncing around fan that kind of just watches wrestling just cuz, they're the ones that kind of dislike him because they don't like Logan Paul the person.
Yeah.
But us
but
purist fans,
I'd say even if you're a WWE fan, like you can't be a WWE fan without acknowledging that there's going to be celebrities. We saw that with Big Show and Mayweather. We saw that with Snoop when Snoop Dogg beat The Miz.
Yeah, you've also seen Bad Bunny come out there, and he looked like a real wrestler. And
Bad Bunny jumping off onto the table was crazy.
I think it's one of those. It's time to start talking about Logan Paul as actually a wrestler and not a celebrity, because he can hang, and he's been in some great matches. I'm not out here to glaze Logan Paul, but I'm not going to discredit the work that he's put in. He could go out there and look like a fool and be sabotaging the sport that we all love. But he's actually put in the work. He's keeping himself in shape. He's trying to stay active, maybe capitalizing for his own efforts outside of his own media and his own career. But at the end of the day, for a lot of people, the WWE has been a launching platform to create stars. The most notable is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. After him is John Cena. And before them is Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I'm not saying Logan Paul is the next them. He already came in with his fan base. Mm-hmm. When he is done with the WWE, whenever that day comes, he will be an even bigger star than he came in. Other than that, no mid-card titles have been booked yet for Mania. We're so close to the pay-per-view, and it just doesn't feel like Mania season.
No, I do agree with you on your point. WrestleMania 41 has been very underwhelming in terms of the advertisements and the build-ups for it. I felt like WrestleMania was a lot better in terms of the build-ups. But, we have Cena fighting next week, and I feel like I've barely seen him on the show.
Look, the other thing, too, is that WrestleMania 40 was so good.
That it's hard. Almost like you got to one-up it.
Yeah, it's hard to come off of the hangover now. And they're trying to build the best matches. The thing is, you can put them all on paper. All these matches are good. Charlotte versus Stratton, Cena versus Rhodes, Jey Uso versus Gunther, which I'm going to get into after. You got Cody and Cena, the triple threat with Punk, Rollins, and Reigns, and Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair. There's matches being made. I think what they're going to end up doing is just a bunch of filler matches with like multi-man and stuff, and just putting titles on the line, which they kind of will do the day of on you, like the ladder match that they had for the tag titles. They didn't announce that the titles are going to be split at WrestleMania 40 until it happened in the match.
I remember that.
It was Grayson Waller and Austin Theory grabbed the SmackDown tag titles, pulled them down, and I thought, okay, why aren't they grabbing the Raw ones? And then The Miz and R-Truth won them. But what was weird is it's not like Grayson and Austin Theory were eliminated from the match. They're just champions now. They just got to go get the second set. kind of didn't make no sense because it wasn't explained. But I get it. You made it on the fly and you wanted to split the titles. But it'd be nice as a fan that, gives to your product to be informed what's going on rather than it just happening. Like, surprises are nice. I'm not saying we need spoilers. But when I'm watching and invested into something that you guys are putting out there and I have questions over it because of how it's produced, yeah, I think it's been lackluster going into Mania this year, and certain moments as well have added to that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you something since you like to ask me questions. How do you feel about a Royal Rumble winner who traditionally main events pay-per-views for a title? And there's been cases where they don't garner the main event, where they've gone on first. Like Edge and Del Rio, for example. Edge won the Royal Rumble, and Alberto Del Rio defended. Maybe I have that mixed up. I think it was Alberto that won the Royal Rumble. Either way, wins the Royal Rumble, doesn't get the main event, and loses the match. And also with Daniel Bryan and Sheamus, the infamous Brogue Kick after a distraction.
10 seconds, yeah.
10-second pin. Sheamus is world champion. How do you feel about a Royal Rumble winner who it's built into the match, gets the main event of WrestleMania for the champion of their choosing, and they don't get the main event?
Well, I think you just kind of nailed it on the head right there. I think they need to go back to, I'm not sure if you remember this, Undertaker wins the Royal Rumble following Monday Night Raw, I believe, or maybe the following SmackDown. Don't fact check me on that. They have John Cena, Bobby Lashley, and Batista all line up in the ring, and Undertaker just walks down one by one, selecting who he wants to choose. I think they need to do that. I think they don't need to have it to where they're going to build up a title for the winner. They need to let the winner choose who they want to go to, and deciding how you want to push that wrestler, depending on where you want to push him.
Yeah, I agree. To me, Undertaker is one of the best Royal Rumble winners with how he was booked as the Royal Rumble winner. Aside from him, I also enjoyed Dave Batista being a Royal Rumble winner. And the whole wow of his decision, was he going to go to SmackDown and add to the John Cena versus JBL triple threat and be WWE champion? Or would he turn on his Evolution stablemate and face Triple H? And he chose Triple H, got the main event. The reason why I bring this up is, to me, the main character of the whole Bloodline saga. You can talk about Roman Reigns. You can talk about Cody Rhodes finishing the story. You can talk about Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Solo Sikoa, The Rock, the Final Boss, everything. It doesn't happen without the right-hand man, Jey Uso. While Jimmy Uso was hurt, Jey starts a single run. He becomes the right-hand man, literally and figuratively, for Roman Reigns, who went from head of the table to the tribal chief. And then it turns into the Usos are now there. They get their long title reign alongside of Roman's reign. They become the Bloodline once again as a full-on blown stable. And you still get these stints of Jey Uso being booked more favorable than his twin brother. And he pins Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank for the tag titles when Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa faced them when they were having their disgruntled. Him being one of the main focal characters of that story that lasted 4 years, lasted just as long as that title reign for Roman Reigns. We're now going into what would be the 5th year of Jey Uso as this character. He's gone from being the right-hand man to his nickname literally being the main event. Because you book him in main events on Raw.
Yeah. And I know you were very high on Jey Uso. When we were watching the Royal Rumble, you actually called Jey Uso to win the Rumble when I don't think a lot of people would have.
No. I just feel like you've invested enough time into a character and you've made fans be so beloved of him that he deserves his payoff. Is he gonna win at Mania? In my opinion, he is. Aside from a lot of people on the part of the IWC have been saying that Jimmy Uso's a better wrestler, that, all it's going to be is a whole super kick party because Jey Uso doesn't do anything else other than that. I think it will be a good clash of styles between him and Gunther. I do think Jey Uso finally gets his moment at WrestleMania. The fact that it's not in the main event, for me, I know everybody that's a CM Punk fan wants to see CM Punk in the main event. Then you should have booked him as the Royal Rumble winner and had him face Gunther. And we could have waited on Jey Uso until SummerSlam to get his moment. But they went ahead and decided to give Jey Uso the Royal Rumble win. I feel like you discredit the Royal Rumble winner, not Jey Uso specifically, but you discredit the Royal Rumble winner by not giving him the main event when his nickname is literally the main event. I just think moving forward there should be a better booking when it comes to that. It doesn't have to be Cody Rhodes to get the main event to win the Royal Rumble. It doesn't have to be the number one guy in the company. You've had guys that were traditional mid-card wrestlers that won Royal Rumbles and got the main event. I'll bring up the most infamous one, Chris Benoit, who I know we're both a fan of in this podcast. And as controversial as that sounds, that's a part of our childhood. Take away the actions of the man, we are looking at him as the wrestler that we were a fan of.
Take away what he did, as sad as it is. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about the wrestler alone, we're looking at possibly a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Chris Benoit affected a lot of careers and a lot of childhoods with his time on SmackDown, with his matches against Booker T, his matches against John Cena. Kurt Angle does not have some of his prime best matches without Chris Benoit, which was his favorite dance partner, which he said on the Chris Van Vliet podcast. Shout out to Chris Van Vliet. Yeah, man. When he won the Rumble, adds himself to the triple threat rivalry that was going on between Michaels and Triple H. And he got the main event, won the world title. It was something to see. Ends the show with him and Eddie Guerrero in the ring together, celebrating as top champions. I just think it would have been nice to see Jey Uso on night one get his moment. But instead, we get, the part-time face of the company versus the workhorse of the company, and the guy that everybody just won't stop chanting his name, who is on the right side of his comeback, but we're on the tail end of CM Punk's career. Jey Uso is still very young into his career. He's not even 40 years old yet. He's in his young 30s. And when all these guys are gone, we'll still have Jey Uso. So I just think he should have gotten his proper build and his proper moment. Mm-hmm. Other things about wrestling, some love to TNA. I was going to talk some AEW, but I know we got some more stuff to talk about. And, I'll just give you guys a little bit of a recap on our next week's episode when it comes to AEW. But TNA, they're building around being called TNA again. They're no longer Impact Wrestling, which I think, some of us that looked for that other flavor of wrestling outside of WWE, TNA was that. We have fans that were older than us that got to enjoy WCW. I'm old enough to know what WCW is, but I didn't watch it. I've always been a WWE fan.
TNA for me was, if I didn't want to watch WWE, I was watching TNA. It was just different. You obviously had the 6-sided ring. Mm-hmm. You had the Ultimate X match, which I believe should be a match that something similar to that should be brought back. You obviously had I don't remember the name of it, but it was the big red cage where you could only escape through the top of the cage.
I believe is man.
There was
I can't remember what that's called because they had Lockdown, they had the Ultimate X, they had the King of the Mountain. I can't remember what that red steel cage one is,
but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, and just growing up watching TNA, I was a big Suicide fan. You know, Bart in the name.
Yeah.
Suicide was my favorite wrestler in TNA.
So I love that you brought up some of these old matches because, which I have my notes here. TNA's pay-per-view Rebellion, which I believe is in about 2 to 3 weeks. It might be after WrestleMania. I'll get the correct date for you guys. But their pay-per-view Rebellion, we see the return of the Ultimate X. The match itself, yeah. And it'll be for the X Division title. It used to be treated as a number 1 contenders match.
Where you would have the big old X hanging in the middle.
And that garnered you a X Division title match against the champion. But it will be for the X Division title. Defending champion Moose, who recently had a solid angle on NXT against Obafemi, the NXT champion. He has gone out and said as his character that, the dude's scared of heights. But he is one of those limitless athletes. I believe he's a former NFL football player who went through a very impressive weight loss transition. He's been a former TNA heavyweight champion. He was the champion when they were as Impact as well. And he is, a prominent figure for them. He's been honestly booked as one of their number 1 guys, and he's the carrier of the X Division title right now, which is the limitless division. That's why you get a 6'5" X Division champion. It's no stranger. You've had Samoa Joe be the X Division champion before. He doesn't look like everybody else. That he doesn't have to. It's as long as you're an athlete that can do all the things you can do as a lucha style, X Division style. That's what makes an X Division champion. You got him defending, and the other 3 competitors that have currently been confirmed for the match are Leon Slater, who most notably is a fan of the Hardys. You're going to want to see this. He can do a shooting star swanton. Yeah.
Man, what does that even look like?
So he starts it off as a swanton and flips mid dive into a shooting star.
Wow.
Yeah, so impressive athlete. With that alone, I can't wait to see what he's gonna do in Ultimate X. Another competitor is Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder. He's having a run in TNA. He's known as the Indie King. He wrestles all the indie promotions. And he's getting some love in TNA, and he's going to be a part of that X Division match. And one of the biggest stars currently in AAA, he's been featured in AEW, he's been featured in TNA. I believe he's had some matches in New Japan. El Hijo del Vikingo, who is the longest reigning AAA mega champion, and is the former longest reigning AAA mega champion. He has been confirmed for Ultimate X. So that just adds another diverse high flyer. The dude does 630s for fun, 450s for fun. He's been featured in TNA before. Dude's an incredible high flyer, has had impressive matches against Speedball Mike Bailey. He's had incredible matches against Kenny Omega and everybody that he's worked with throughout his career, and he gets to get highlighted in Ultimate X, which is going to be crazy to me. Another thing for them at Rebellion, which I'll lastly note on, is that they are getting rid of one of their mid-card titles. It's referred to as the Digital Media Championship, which used to be the Grand Slam Championship, which before that was the Legends Championship, the one that Booker T introduced when he was a part of the Main Event Mafia. That lineage of that title is this title. They introduced it as the Digital Media title. They're getting rid of it. They're scrapping it out. And they will be introducing a new title that will be called the TNA International Championship.
probably going to be like the Intercontinental Championship, just
Yeah.
one of those mid card titles.
Yeah, AEW has their version. TNA will now have theirs. I just think they try to be different and have that version of that title. The two most notable Intercontinental titles is the one in New Japan and the one in WWE.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's no other Intercontinental title that.
I feel like it's kind of hard to kind of one up it too, because when you think of international or intercontinental, you think of WWE.
Yeah.
You either think of the old school with the yellow strap or the white strap,
and just everybody who's held it.
Yeah.
Aside from the title design, Michaels, Triple H, Austin,
Dolph Ziggler, very underrated.
Dolph Ziggler, Chris Jericho, The Miz, Macho Man, The Ultimate Warrior, Rowdy Piper, Ricky Steamboat,
and the list goes
Rick
on.
Road. We can go on. We could do a whole episode of just Intercontinental Champions, but we won't. There's other websites and podcasts that do that. But that just goes to show you, we got level of historians here when it comes to our variations of sports and our variations of wrestling knowledge. I know I'm a little more deeper in there than you are, but hey, just like when it comes to the NCAA, I get to learn something from this guy. He gets to learn some stuff from me too. It's mainly our pocket together is NFL, NBA, and UFC. That's where like we really conjoin with each other.
But we still want to give the other sports for the fans that may be a part of it, where they may not have a podcast for it.
Yeah.
Like as you can see, I'm wearing my Cesar Chavez Titans gear. Getting ready for season. Once high school ball comes around, Friday night lights are here. Hey, it's full show and go on this podcast.
Yes, sir. You're gonna be hearing a lot of some high school sports. Look, we're like we've said before, we got ties to Chavez, we got ties to Stack, but we plan to cover as much of the local area that we can, and that includes outside of Stockton.
Yeah, that'll go up to Sacramento. You have schools like Pleasant Grove, and then you got schools like Lodi, Tokay, obviously Escalon, great school who we actually play this year.
Yeah.
What's another school in this area? Lathrop High, who recently went to the semifinals of the Division 5 playoffs, I believe.
Let's not ignore Lincoln. Them Trojans, they showed out as much as they could against Sierra Canyon. So,
and that was basketball. See, we even had basketball on this channel.
Yeah, look, we're doing as much as we can to garner the information and be as credible as we can while also having our own organic opinions. But the number one thing we want to stay true is to not only talk about what we want to talk about, but what you guys all know. We have those discussions, barbershop talk, where you want to know certain things about certain sports, certain events. And we touched into that LeBron and Stephen A. beef. You won't always get that on this channel, but it was just kind of inevitable to talk about, just like the Ja Morant incident. But when it comes to the sports and the levels, high school, college, pro, and different variations, we'll try to get into it all.
Yeah. And now we're going to be hopping into our last segment over here on the CV Central podcast. If you haven't already yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. Potentially get one of our guests up on here if they're very interested in it. But we'll see how that goes. So we're going to be talking a little about the NFL now. So I don't know if you saw, but the NFL approved accolades from 1946 to 49, which was the AAFC pre-merger. This actually puts the Browns where they gained 4 championships. This makes Paul Brown the winningest head coach ever, and Otto Graham officially ties Tom Brady for 7 rings. So what do you think about that? I know there's, as a Packers fan, obviously 4 Super Bowls, but we have 13 championships technically, which is the most. And I know we are very proud of those 13 champions, where a lot of other teams are going to be like, you only won 4 post Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, it was still the NFL. I could see why people might not like it being the AAFC because it wasn't the NFL at the time. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it adds any more legitimacy or affects what the current day image of football is when it comes to certain teams and how their image of being a championship organization is. I think what it does is that you now finally attach lineage to where teams come from. It didn't just start with the first Super Bowl.
It started NFL championship before that.
And, a lot of fans that acknowledge the Super Bowl era, it'll be hard for them to hear, like, wait, no, this team is not the best team. This quarterback is not Tom Brady. But now these players that play these careers that have built the sport to get to where it's at get the acknowledgement. They get the recognition. Because that's part of the foundation of the sport we love today.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think adding the lineage is good for those people that like to dive in and be historians and know about their teams and know, oh, well, this player, I've heard his name, but wow, he was this good. That's crazy to hear.
Yeah, it's almost like the NBA in a way, where it's weird because the NBA fans, they acknowledge the NBA, ABA pre-merger titles or whatever the case may be. But NFL fans are different. They refuse to acknowledge what happened prior to the NFL AFC merger.
And it's the biasy when it comes to the modern day. It comes to the Super Bowl era, and it comes to your own team. All of us like to say, like, oh, your team has this many rings. Well, my team has this many rings. Yeah. And
it's got to suck if you're a Patriots fan because we had Brady who had 6 rings with us. Well, now you have Otto Graham who had 7 with the Browns.
Yeah. And, now this just adds to, like I said, those people that don't know, now they can go know. Yeah. You can go look up Otto Graham. You can go look up his highlights that are still available. It'll be black and white, but you can still see it. And you can see just how good the first generation of football was.
And I know one name that sticks out to me is Dick Butkus, aside of the name.
Yeah.
Great player. There's some other stuff that we can talk about.
I got one for you.
For example, Joe Milton traded to Dallas for it was Joe Milton and a 7th round pick in exchange for a 5th round pick. As much as we flack on the Cowboys, Cowboys finally got their QB1.
Man, look, that just adds pressure to Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Because there's a very good notion of the potential high ceiling that a guy like Milton has.
Yeah. But what do you feel about the Patriots not keeping him? I felt like the Patriots should have kept him as an insurance for Drake May, but obviously the Patriots feel that Drake May is their future now.
I think you just added 110% confidence to your quarterback. That, okay, we drafted you. Look, we know we got this guy that everybody's talking about, and he could compete with you in this room. We don't want competition. We want what you can give us. Look, we got you, Stephon Diggs. You're going to be the guy. Here's the keys to the kingdom. We're not asking you to be Brady. We're not asking you to be anybody that's been on this roster before.
But show us something.
We're asking you to be Drake May. Here's a number 1 receiver that you didn't have before. Here, we're going to build on what we can with the new coaching staff and what is currently on this team. But full confidence to the quarterback. Drake May has a high ceiling as well. Just because there was so much talk about Joe Milton, Drake May had a solid season last year. And he did that with a carousel of receivers, similar to your guy, Jordan Love. So I don't feel like he got enough love. It's tough for the division that he's in. You prematurely had Rodgers in there last year. You got the MVP of the league, Josh Allen. And then you got, shout out to my boy Justice, the guy that can't stop being concussed in Tua Tagovailoa. So, yeah, Drake May has a high ceiling. It's going to be solid to see what they're able to do with their young quarterback. Now, for Joe Milton, add that pressure to Dak Prescott because Prescott could be out the door. I'm not saying that it's Milton's job to win. It's Prescott's job to lose.
Yeah, 100% agree. second one that happened today, Geno Smith signs a 2-year, $85.5 million extension with a $66.5 million guaranteed. Now this just plays the question if Raiders even get the quarterback. I know there was a lot of talk of them possibly getting Shedeur Sanders, but now I feel like it's kind of leaning towards more of like Ashton Genty.
I mean, they need a running back.
Obviously, Raider fans thought that Zamir White was going to be the answer, but obviously it wasn't.
Clearly wasn't. I mean, that adds into something that I wanted to bring up was possible destinations for Ashton Genty. The Raiders are one. They need that number one cowbell back, and it could be Ashton Genty. I feel like they still got plenty of missing pieces. You got a bridge quarterback now. Mm-hmm. Now, I think I did bring this up on the podcast before where they could tank for Archie Manning. Mm-hmm. But go get the pieces similar to what the Falcons did. Get your receiver, get your running back, get your tight end. You got Brock Bowers. You got Geno Smith to hold on to for a little bit. You can go wait for your quarterback. You go get Ashton Genty. Get all these best available players. Just know the Falcons are coming.
Yeah.
That division, to me, in my eyes, the best team in that division is not the Saints anymore. It's Tampa Bay now. Mm-hmm. It's Baker Mayfield's division to lose. Michael Penix is going to come for that second place or possible first place.
It's going to be interesting to see how Penix plays with a full off season under his belt and getting thrusted into the starting spot.
And Bryce Young too. It's going to be interesting to see if Bryce Young, now going into his third year,
can continue.
Does he build off the sophomore year?
Yeah.
And then also the Saints. Are you still going to rock with Derek Carr? Or are you going to rock with Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to really see what the Saints do. Mm-hmm. But, as the offseason progresses, we'll have the news updated over here on the CV Central.
Yeah.
All right, third one. Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals signs a 4-year, $76 million extension, $43 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid tight end in history. One thing worth noting, McBride only has 6 touchdowns in the 3 years he's been in the NFL.
He proved to be a solid safety net for Kyler Murray last year. Yeah. Even when Joshua Dobbs was on the roster.
Yeah.
Kyler was out.
We saw it during the season too, where McBride wasn't getting the touchdowns, but when you needed him, obviously we saw him being able to run with the ball. We saw him being able to catch the ball.
He's got some good yak.
He just couldn't find a way to get into the end zone. Mm-hmm. So the real question really is now is him not scoring enough touchdowns a big concern for him being the highest paid?
Definitely. But I think just because you don't produce the scoring, you put your team in position to score.
Mm-hmm. Which he showed he's done during the season.
And it's the same thing with, quarterbacks. Well, Lamar gets the love because he can score his own touchdowns without having to throw. And then you got Allen. Same thing with him. Same thing with Mahomes. They can go run for their own touchdowns. Yeah. A guy like McBride, he right now out of all these young up and coming tight ends, when you push Kittle and Kelsey out of the way, you push Mark Andrews and Goddard, T.J. Hawkinson out of the way. The guy that will give McBride a run for his money will someday maybe be Brock Bowers, but it will be Sam Laporta for now.
I like the money on Brock Bowers before Laporta.
But between those three, McBride, Laporta, and
between
Bowers,
those three, it's going to be Laporta. I think. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
But I think Laporta's going to get his extension, and then Laporta's going to get the highest paid.
Yeah.
And then Brock Bowers is just going to top
it. Bowers is going to break the bank for sure.
We see how it. We see kind of how the contract situation has been. One person gets paid, the next person tops it, then the next person tops it, then the next.
I brought up Bowers and Laporta because outside of McBride, they're also receiving tight ends. Mm-hmm. Although they can block. Laporta, I feel, is a better blocker than Bowers. He's got a bigger frame, but they both happen to be top receiving tight ends as well, but they happen to score. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just one of those things. I don't put it all on McBride. I feel like your quarterback is the one that should put you in position to score. But the dude won't put down Call of Duty and get better at being a quarterback. So, I mean, come on, Kyler, bro. Like, he's made it clear he doesn't want to study film. He made it clear, phase and game is life. But to me, Kyler's never been no threat in the division. Good for them that they got McBride. It's not going to get you past anybody in the NFC West right now. We'll see what Seattle turns into. The Rams are still confident on what they currently have.
Yeah.
And as the weeks go on, y'all will hear more about what I have to say about the 49ers. I haven't said anything. I'm keeping quiet because I want to know what's going on with that 11th pick.
Yep, and we'll find that out during the draft, which is the 25th, 3 weeks away, I believe, which you're going to find here on YouTube, live stream watch party. So,
yes, sir.
Hey, get excited for that, man.
Yeah.
Next one. So there's the new OT rules. I'm sure you've seen it by now.
Yeah.
New OT rules allows both teams to possess the ball in overtime now. So it's not just the playoffs, in the regular season now.
Mm-hmm.
As well as first downs being marked by technology rather than the chain gang. They're still going to have the chain gang out there, but as far as
it just goes from a physical to a visual representation of it.
Yeah, and we saw it with the XFL in the 2020 season before COVID. They had the camera angle or the camera view for the first down marker.
Yeah.
So, but we see this all the time with the NFL and the UFL now. NFL adopting some of those rules. We saw it with the kickoff.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I don't know if you know this, but the Skycam actually came from the original XFL.
Shout out to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Also, just a side note, if y'all want to hear some UFL, former XFL on this podcast, let us know. We'll dive into some UFL for you guys.
Let us know. I'm kind of a casual when it comes to that, but
Same.
I'm on the bandwagon. Go Stallions. I know they've three-peated, but
I'm on the bandwagon. I'm on the bandwagon too. Go Brahmas.
Oh, go destroying, man.
Yeah. But no, yeah, look, whatever makes the league better, and I know a lot of us fans will challenge what happens visually and what the refs call, as long as anything that adds to the aesthetic of getting it better for us to be able to watch and support, I think that's all that matters. So as long as it's positive towards the league, I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah. All right, next one. Obviously, the Packers, known as the team to propose the tush push ban, it has been postponed until May of next month. What do you feel about the tush push? I know people are kind of like 50-50 on it. It feels like I just want to say one thing. I'm not against the tush push. I'm just against how it's used, in the sense that you have both your running backs pushing your quarterback forward, which is legal in the NFL. I'm not saying it's not. But it's illegal when, say, the defense on special teams pushes their guy into the long snapper or into the line. It's illegal for the defense on special teams, but it's still legal for the offense. And the reason why they made it illegal on defense was because that was the norm and it was deemed too unsafe. I just don't get how that is unsafe, but when you do it on offense, it is perfectly fine. I think you need to either re-legalize being able to push each other on the defensive line on special teams, or you just ban pushing the runner forward altogether.
I agree with you on your point that it should be reassessed. One thing is the overusage. The overusage on the tush push, where they've literally done a whole series of just tush pushes to gain the first down, gain the touchdown. back to back to back. And then it's just really unsafe. Aside from it being unfair to the defense, for a league that, you know, prides itself now on its concussion protocol, it's a lot of head to head causing potential concussion damage.
Yeah, we saw it in the Super Bowl with Chris Jones, where he looked like he had that little neck strain from trying to get the tush push.
And I mean, what are you gonna add? Bigger helmets? You're gonna add them? Okay, well, you want to do the tush push? Then we're gonna force the Guardian cap on teams, or like, it's just to me, it sucks because one, it's been overused. Specifically by a specific team. You haven't seen other teams doing the tush push yet. It's just really been Philly.
Yeah.
But the injury rate, I feel, could be high too. And maybe it might not be initial in the moment, but long term wise, for both offensive and defensive players, bring that up into account of why it should be reassessed. It should be an illegal play.
Yeah.
It's super unsafe. Not only are you pushing one man into another man, and the defense really can't defend themselves, and it's just all, you know, head down to head down contact. The ball carriers really can't even see where they're going. They're just looking down to see if they cross the plane.
Yeah. All right, last one, and that'll do this for this episode. So recent rankings polled. The rankings place Sean McVay as the second best head coach in the league behind Andy Reid. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you agree with Andy Reid being number one, or do you disagree?
I do agree with Andy Reid being number one. I would take Dan Campbell at number two.
Oh, that's interesting.
I really like Dan Campbell. He not only he a solid players coach, but the environment that he's built in Detroit. And, you know, even making people, you know, who don't necessarily like Detroit and love their own team, you kind of like, you pull for the underdog. You know, you wanted to see Detroit. Like, I know they're in your own division, but you can't hate Detroit so much when they've literally come from the bottom where they're at now.
No, yeah. As a Packers fan, spending all the time in the North, you know, obviously running the North, as you would say, it's entertaining, and entertaining in the sense that, like, with all due respect, there's no denying that we were winning the division over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. It's entertaining that we can finally have a great division to compete with.
Yeah.
I love the Bears and what they're doing right now. As much as I hate the Bears, I love what they're doing right now. Love the Vikings. Love the Lions. At the end of the day, it's football, and I want to see good football. But come Sundays when we play each other, obviously, not gonna like you guys as much. No. But off season, I don't mind. I don't mind paying attention to what the Lions, Bears, and Vikings are doing.
I mean, you really just want to see how prepared these teams are doing and how game-changing off-season moves and regular season moves can be. It's why you got the season you got with the Washington Commanders last year. What they were just able to go out and do. It creates unpredictable stuff in a league that's usually predictable. And it just makes us football fans appreciate what goes on in our league.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the CV Central, episode 10. We're finally here, new era, man.
Hey, y'all got the visuals now. You can see, you know, the war room that goes on here between us, you know, rather than just listening to it. And just because you have this option, please make sure that you listen to us and watch us on any platform available to you. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and now YouTube, man. It's a new era for the CVC, and you're going to see why this is the place to be.
Hey, like he said, Apple, Spotify, YouTube now. We're wherever you listen to your podcast. But with that being said, that's going to be it. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey, peace.